Welcome to another episode of Pistons of Fury. In this episode, we are going to continue my project of installing fold-down seat awesomeness in my 1966 Mustang coupe. Stay tuned. Okay, so when we last left, the point I got was that I think I proved the concept of how my hinges are going to work. What I want to do next is I'm going to remove the back of the seat again, and I'm going to move my pivot points up probably about 2 inches to see if I can get it to fold flatter. And then, once I prove that that actually works, I'm going to recreate these brackets for the back of the seat and also take those bolts that I have for the pegs right now and create some real brackets out of those, so it's kind of a complete system. So we're gonna get started doing that. Okay, so here is the back bracket. Currently I have the bolt just kind of sitting there. It's tack welded in place. I need to move it up about 2 inches, so I need to remove some of this sound deadening. Yeah, but just wanted to give you guys a view here of up close how everything's just kind of lining up. Ooh, this is pretty close. You can see it already. Slide that on. Get it centered. So, we are basically folded pretty flat. I would call that flat. I guess we could go up more, but I don't think it's necessary. And then goes back like that. Perfect installation. It's comfy. I like it. It's still a little smoky in here because of the welding, but yeah, so can't ask for much better than that. let's see what we've learned so far. So number one, it wasn't actually the way I had the hinges mounted on the back of the seat that was making them bind. It's really just the design of that slide itself. So really, you know, as I probably pointed out, or as you saw in the first episode of this series, the slide I'm using is actually supposed to be for a desk drawer or a kitchen cabinet drawer or something like that. So while it is ball bearing and it is entirely metal, there are some plastic pieces in there. So I think there's a little bit of weakness when I try to apply pressure on the slide laterally, which is not just in a straight up and down kind of way. I looked at different ways to reinforce that. There's really no way to do that. So I think I'm just going to stick with it for this part of the project to prove out the initial concept. Long-term viability might be an issue because the hinge could actually just pry apart if the seat is not folded down the correct way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that in there. I'm going to keep my eyes out online when I'm looking at stuff to see if I can find a heavier duty kind of slide, maybe even not ball bearing. It doesn't necessarily have to be ball bearing, but a heavier duty slide that can actually take some of that lateral movement that's going to occur when the seat folds down. But I think for now this is good, so I'm going to keep going with this. I'm going to polish up some of the brackets, going to give it a little bit of coat of paint, and then I'm going to get to work on the backstop for the seat, or the backboard. I don't know what we're going to call that. I guess it will be the piece that folds flat. It goes on the back of the seat. We're going to do that.
And seems to look at things in gloom. 50 strings are little room. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hanging snow. And seems to look at things in gloom. 50 strings are little room. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hanging snow. Things in bloom, 50 strings are little room. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hanging snow. And seems to look at things in bloom, 50 strings are little room. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hanging snow. About the woodlands I will go to see the cherry hanging snow.
Okay, so I've got the template kind of roughed out here on the back of the seat. I think this is what I'm going with. Basically, I've kind of cut it around the hinges, I've cut it around the center hump, and what I'm trying to think through now is how I'm actually going to attach it to the back of the seat. So I've got a few different options. Some of them I'm playing with, so I'm going to do some more thinking on that, come up with something, and then at least try to get it in place. And actually what I'm thinking now is that in the last episode I bent those hinges back, not hinges, but they were kind of like catches for the back of the seat in the car, and I folded them flat so I could play with the seat positioning and everything, but I think I'm actually going to use those. So what I can do is when I get this secured in place, I can get some little loops, little metal loops that sit on this, and will actually go right into those catches once I bend them back. So the way the seat will work is I'll basically be able to pick it up out of the catches, fold it flat, and there we go. So I need to figure out how to attach this to the back of the seat, so that's what I'm doing now. Okay, so where we are right now is I have the wood cut out for the back of the seat. So my back platform or barrier that goes in the back, so when it folds down there's actually something that's not just exposed springs and foam in the back of the seat. So what I'm going to do now is I actually bought some it's kind of cheap carpet. I wouldn't really use it for carpet, but basically this is the kind of stuff that goes on speaker boxes and trunks and other interior parts that don't see a lot of high use. I'll put the part number of the product that I bought. It was Amazon. It was like 35, 40 bucks. And what that basically is I think 4 feet? No, not 4 feet. Something like 24 feet. A lot of this cheap carpet stuff. So I'm going to use some of that. I'm going to cut it out. We're going to mount that to the back of this plywood, and that will provide us the back of the seat, some structure. And then what I'm going to do is I have this piece of aluminum stock that I got. It's 4 feet long. This is going to act as my trim piece, which is the barrier between that carpet and what my eventual trunk liner will be. I probably won't do this as part of the episode, but I wanted to point this out. The trunk liner, as I think I've mentioned before, is basically like this plaid rubberized mat that you buy for the trunk. It's all contoured and everything. So that will come up, and on my on the hump for the rear axle, whatever that's called, will sit this aluminum trim piece, and underneath will be the seam between the black carpet, which goes into the transitions into the seat back, and then the rubberized mat that goes in the trunk. So that's how that's going to work. I also got some trim screws to screw the plywood into the back of the seat. Along the back of the seat, there are actually two metal, kind of like stock metal, right? The top of the seat and the bottom of the seat. So I'm going to drill some holes, get that aligned, drill some holes in the plywood, and we're going to punch that right through the carpet. Black screws, you really won't see them. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. Okay, so where we are is I have this in place with 4 screws just in the 4 corners. Did a quick test fit over there, and basically what I need to do is I need to come back and add 4 more screws to keep the center from bowing, because as I noted before, when it folds down it hits that hump in the bottom seat, then the middle of this seat starts to bind a little bit. I was also getting some binding on my sound deadening with this, the bottom of the wood here. I think that'll improve when I get the carpet on it. It'll be a little less friction. Less friction is good in this case. And if that continues, I was thinking what I'll do is I may get some little wheels to go on the bottom of this that can help glide it when it's doing its pivot thing, so it won't bind on the bottom of the car, and the wheels will kind of help push it along. Those will actually be under, so my plan is on the bottom of the seat I'm going to have some loose carpet that will kind of fold, kind of like the way a convertible top works. When it goes up, everything compresses. When it comes down, the carpet or the material will expand, so it'll kind of cover that gap that I have there behind the seat. Nobody wants to see what's under a seat anyway, really. And if I do end up putting those wheels, those will be covered, so you won't see those. So yeah, I'm going to come through and just drill some more holes, put these final screws in, do another test fit, and then I'm going to mount the carpet on the backing board. Okay, so we're at the point where I need to adhere this new upholstery carpet stuff to the back of the seat. And I did some research online, and apparently what the best stuff to use for this is actually contact cement. You can get it in cans, and you're supposed to buy a nice brush and apply it evenly. And supposedly it's better than the spray stuff. However, at my local Ace, all they had was a giant gallon of contact cement, and that was like $43, which would probably cost more than everything else I bought for this project. So what I decided to do was I'm just gonna go with this Super 77 multi-purpose adhesive. Dries fast. It's probably gonna make a little bit more of a mess, so I may do this outside, I'm not sure yet. Definitely gonna wear gloves. So yeah, I'm just gonna, I've been using these little binder clips, you can get it at Office Depot or whatever, to just kind of mock it up and lock the upholstery in place. So I'm gonna undo some of them at a time and coat this underneath, put them back, let it dry, and just kind of go around. I'm gonna do some cutting around the edges just to get it to fold nicely. And by the time I'm done, it should all be dry and ready to mount permanently. Once I do that, I'm gonna come through the backside and poke some kind of sharp object through the holes that I drilled for the mounting points, and then mark those on the carpet so I can see where I have to go down with the screw. And then I should be able to do the final mount and semi-final install. So this is kind of the final assembly. Still a little tacky, but I've got all the screws in place. When it was upside down, I went ahead and just put some finishing nails through the carpet so I could place these screws on the, I guess, the top side. So I have them all kind of half screwed into place. So now should be the fun part. I get to figure out if all of my holes still line up with this carpet installed. So as you probably noticed, I left the corners here where these hinges move just kind of dangling off. My point is that it's not, or I guess what I wanted to do is I didn't want to make it structural. I just wanted it to kind of cover up the hinge. So really all you see is this little piece that moves, and then where I had the board notched for the hinge is just covered by carpet. So there's no adhesive back there, it's just carpet for the hinge so that it can move freely behind the carpet, and you know, as a person in the car or looking at this, you never see it. So that's a win. Alright, now I've got to see if these holes line up. So I'm going to do the top first. So, little snafu this late in the project. This sucks. I think what happened is I mounted my carpet on the wrong side of the backing board, which means probably none of my holes are going to line up. It's okay, it's recoverable, because this carpet, you don't really notice the holes in it, so these screws aren't really going to affect anything. So now I just kind of need to reverse engineer and come back and drill new holes through the wood to match the holes that are in the metal. So that sucks. That really sucks. Oh man, when you get this close to the end of a project and something like this happens, you know, you lose focus in this game for 1 second and this kind of stuff happens. Damn. Alright, so I think actually what the easiest thing to do at this point is just to use my locations that I have in the wood and drill brand new holes if I go into metal. Okay, so quick recovery, a little bit of panic, but no problem. Everything kind of mounted okay. Only problem is some of my screw holes kind of look off center now, and then this plywood doesn't align perfectly around the hump on the back of the seat, so I'm going to do a test install and see how it fits, just to make sure there's no alignment issues. Worst case, I can always peel the back, this carpet back on the bottom, jigsaw that off and re-glue it, but not a deal breaker. Yeah, so let's do a test fit. Right, seems to look pretty good. Yeah, and the carpet definitely helps with the pivot. There's no more friction back on my sound deadening. I don't think I'll need the, yeah, shouldn't need the wheels. All right, so that is the finished product. And I think once I get some fabric for the back to cover up the rear axle floor, thing like that, this should look pretty good. But it already looks really good, especially just being in there in the car. You really don't even notice it. It looks like it's supposed to be that way. So that was the goal I set out to do, and I think I accomplished it. Got a little bit more work to do on the hinges, but I will take care of that when I go in there and clean up and kind of finish welding those hinge bolts before I do the final carpet install, but I'm going to save that for another episode. This concludes the fold down seat. Something I've been thinking about for a long time. That's really cool. Makes this car way more accessible. Okay, so that's a wrap for this episode. Pretty happy with how it turned out. I think I have it in a good place. There's a couple things that I'm still waiting on that I'm going to tackle when I actually come through and do the final prep for the trunk, the final installation of the rubberized trunk mat, and getting everything cleaned up back there. I still have to make that transition point. Still have to install the aluminum trim that I bought, which I'll do at that time. I don't want to go ahead and cut anything now and start to do that when I don't have all the trunk pieces in place. So that's pretty good. I'm happy with how it came out. There's still a couple little issues that I'll probably want to iron out over time, but I think in terms of accomplishing the objective of getting the rear seat to fold down the Mustang, being able to fit things like surfboards in the back of this car, it's awesome. It's where it needs to be. As I get into it and as I start driving the car, I'll probably have some little tweaks that I come back and do, and I'll cover those in a future episode. So next, for this car, I've got interior carpet coming. I have new sill panels, so that's probably going to comprise the next episode. After that, we're going to go into the dash, do some final installation on the dash. We'll be doing little bezels, accessories, chrome pieces, and we're going to get into gauges. I've got a really cool idea that I'm hoping really works out well, so I'm looking forward to that. So if you liked the video, please throw me a like. If you like the channel and what we do here, subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more to come on this car. We're going to have this car driving by summer, and it's going to be awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.